Hi, Nelson Davis with Motorcar Parts of America. A real common issue that we often see are units that are contaminated with fluid. There are various fluids that can contaminate a starter or alternator and cause it to fail prematurely. Most often it's engine oil, but you can also have units that are contaminated with power steering fluid, even engine coolant. You can actually see some pretty good examples here of alternators that have been excessive coatings of oil, starters that have been coated with oil and contaminated with oil. And what that fluid does when it gets inside a starter or alternator, typically that oil or coolant is absorbed by the brushes in the starter or the alternator. The brushes, being largely carbon-based, will soak up and absorb that oil or that coolant almost like a sponge. And eventually it will cause those brushes to fail, and it will cause them to deteriorate and almost turn into a paste. So you'll have an alternator that quits charging, or you'll have a starter that just quits functioning, just because the brushes have failed due to this fluid contamination. So the key here obviously is if your vehicle needs a starter, or if it needs an alternator, or if the alternator is not charging, it needs to be replaced, well then obviously it needs to be replaced. Same thing, if the starter is not functioning and needs to be replaced, you're going to have to replace it. But the key would be when that starter or alternator is removed from that vehicle, you want to carefully examine it and look for any signs or any evidence of fluid contamination. If you see oil, if you see evidence of coolant or any other types of fluids on that starter or alternator that you've removed from that vehicle, then that's going to indicate a fluid leakage of some sort. Those fluid leakages need to be addressed. They need to be repaired. Otherwise, your replacement starter or alternator is going to fail prematurely. It's going to suffer the same fate as the starter or alternator that you removed from that vehicle. Those brushes in that replacement starter or alternator are also going to absorb and soak up that leaking oil, that leaking engine coolant, that leaking power steering fluid, and cause that alternator or starter to fail prematurely. If you should need any help or any assistance with this too, please feel free to call our toll-free tech support hotline at 1-800-228-9672.